Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the brand new unit impressions. Time for our brand new beast units. From Radiant Dawn, by the way, more Tellius units. So this is pretty cool because it looks like 2019's agenda for Fire Emblem Heroes appears to be beasts. Okay, so I guess we gotta welcome our new beast overlords, so to speak. However, as we always do in these impression videos and tomorrow's unit comparison analysis video, I'm not here to hype up the new units. I'm going to give you my objective and non-biased opinion as best as I can, and actual facts based on my experience in tier 21 plus and Aether raids up to tier 27 now, and tier 21, of course, all from an F2P perspective for those of you that are new and joining us to the channel. So thank you so much, as always. You can always feel free to add your opinions into the comments below or Discord to also continue the discussion. Keep it civil and classy, as always. All right, so let's jump into it and let's find out what we got.
What? You've never seen someone with ears like mine?
All right, first off, this was not the Ranulf voice that I expected. That's just, I gotta get that clear out of the door. I expected him to have a more cheerful voice and not to be a man. But I guess, whatever. Whatever, okay. Anyways, he is a cat cavalry green. So the only other matching beast to him right now is technically Caden, which is cool. Apparently cats can't go into trees, neither can bunnies, and foxes can't either. Whatever. I didn't invent the logic here, but his sole competitor right now happens to be Caden. I wouldn't consider Pane or Selkie to really be competitors to him because they are blue and they have different matchups as a result of that. Caden is also supportive. Let's see what Ranulf has in comparison. So, Ranulf is the second unit to come with Ward Beasts. That's cool. He has 4 skills, which makes him a potential demote. Based on the whole Valoria Keaton fiasco, I'm going to be very careful to suspect who is going to demote here. But yeah, based on how they do them, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not even going to try to predict anything at this point. Ward Beast is really good. Ward stacking is a thing, and especially important to beasts because here is something really awesome about beasts. And dragons can kind of do this too. Mixing movement types in stacking wards. So you can literally have flyer beasts, cavalry beasts, armor beasts, and infantry beasts all running ward beasts, and that creates like a mixed team comp that can also stack wards, which is insane. Because usually if you do that, you have to use like flyers completely, armors completely, or cavalry completely. So you're not locked into a movement type, you can actually flex, and that makes them very versatile, and therefore ward beasts, especially with tanking strategies, could be a real thing. And I am keeping my eyes very close on that sort of thing, especially if availability became more common. Second, he's got chill attack, which is whatever at this point. You can get it at Garnef, so it's not really that great. Rally attack defense plus, good. More skills like this are welcome so that you can increase your arena score. Plus attack defense, rally, I think is a pretty good one as it stands for most of them. Anyways, Covert Cat Fang. Okay. As with most of these beasts, weapons, I'm just going to summarize it for you. This is pretty much the same as Pane's effect and Selkie's effect and Caden's effect, because it's just basically based on cavalry beast, right? So they have the sturdy impact effect without the extra defense. They lower attack and defense when attacking. This is all an initiation. And additionally, his personal effect here is that as long as he's within 2 spaces of an ally, he buffs himself and allies within 2 spaces. So that's actually pretty cool. It's not like Caden levels of buffs, but specifically because Caden requires other allies around to really utilize that properly. It's like Caden needs tactics, or he needs to have like links. He has a link to kind of buff others, and that makes him definitely more potential but you don't have to rely on it the same way with Ranulf here for his effect, which is cool. So as long as you play maybe like in a beast comp, it shouldn't be too difficult to set up, and it also gives him some support potential. I do expect Ranulf to probably be better than Caden though, at least on a stat spread perspective. Like Caden could be running like Gale Force stuff, but I feel like Ranulf might do it better. And yeah, he's not too bad as a support unit. Coming with Ward Beast and Covert Cafang right away is already cool. Plus he's green. Green is good. Green is easier to pull than all the other colors. What? Hold on. What's he doing in the trees? No. This is wrong. I got baited.
Your kind are the Bayork, mine the Lagoos.
Okay, so here is Lethe showing up as a red cavalry beast. So we don't have this. The only real comparison I would probably make to this now is maybe Tibarn, but Tibarn is flying. He's a beast, but he's flying, so not really the same thing, and therefore Lethe will be more unique than all the other ones right now, at least based on that alone. However, she's red, so red is hard to pull. And she's cavalry. Cavalry are not, they're okay. I'd say they're still better than armors, at least when it comes to AR meta, but they're not necessarily amazing. They're just good. They're neither amazing nor really poor in terms of performance overall. There's definitely potential for beasts though, and that's the overall bigger picture here. All right. She does bring some repeat skills and, well, her own preference weapon and, of course, the new speed defense solo skill. So Holen Beast previously came on Lian. Good stuff. Definitely, if you're creating beast comps, you kind of need like all this stuff wherever you can get it. Speed defense solo, I'm not too big fan of this, especially since it feels like if you're going to be running cavalries, which you should, like melee cavalries, they're probably best off running Gale Force strategies, at least on offense, air offense. So you're going to want to prefer like attack speed solo in most cases instead of speed defense. In fact, speed defense might be just counter, like it wouldn't even be good because you want to set up maybe Wings of Mercy or escape route strategies instead, and giving yourself extra bulk doesn't really help you very much. So there's very little situations where that solo skill is as good as attack speed. However, on contrast, if you use this on air defense, speed defense solo could be good instead of attack speed solo, where you're not necessarily going for a kill. You're going for, let's say, a defense setup that just wants to keep her alive while she engages and then sets up maybe some Wings of Mercies or something like that. This is all dependent on what sort of stat spread she ends up having. Like if she has like bad res, then you'll probably just get end turned by Noe and then just cry because your extra defense didn't matter. But generally speaking, there is some strategy on AR defense, not so useful on offense as that skill comes right now. But yeah, she's looking like she'll be really quick. So her preference gives her 3 speed and speed defense solo, probably really fast because she's a cat, so probably some immersion in that as well, and 3 moves. So yeah, her personal effect is as long as she's not near someone else, she gets attack speed solo. Simple as that. So I was just talking about attack speed solo, but you could just stack it. So you just have 2 attack speed solos and you just get best of both worlds. Honestly, that's probably best case scenario when it comes to straight, strong, consistent Gale Forces, even if you one-shot. The thing is, running like Quick Impulse, Heavy Blade with like Valoria as your setup for Gale Force is totally a thing you could do. You could ally support her with Valoria, Quick Impulse, Heavy Blade in the A slot, and just attack speed solo in with like her. I'm talking about the personal weapon, of course. You can't get another one, but that would be really consistent. That could make her really good in that way. Anyways, her cavalry beast effect is the same as it is with the rest of them, which is the sturdy impact effect and lowering the enemy attack and defense, which is really good because, as I said, heavy blade checks are based on that attack. So yeah, Lethe seems good. Without seeing stats, I can tell you she's probably gonna be unique and probably one of the better or best Gale Force users. It's what I'm gonna think always with this though, and you're gonna hear this in tomorrow's comparison analysis, is merges will definitely matter for this sort of thing, and high investment as well. Gale Force, Heavy Blade A, Valoria with ally support. Like these are the type of setups you need to make this consistent. But if you can make it work, it's probably really good.
beast tribe.
Nice trees there. Doesn't make any sense, but okay.
As a cat, I need no hard word.
Hey, gentle giant Mordecai, who happens to be one of my core units for Path to Radiance playthroughs because Smite is best. Unfortunately for him, I don't really know how I want to rate him because he's infantry blue beast, which is competing with Nyla, who's really, really good. So what exactly could Mordecai bring that would make him better than Nyla? Because Nyla's weapon is already amazing as it is. And she already comes with distant counter and null C, like out of the box, ready to go. So just based off that alone, Mordecai likely won't provide anything amazing from a personal performance perspective. But all right, we got our smite. And he's got attack defense link, so that's good. He's already got his kit ready to go. That's already a good thing. Beast XP, I don't, why is that even there? This might as well be like, yeah, we're probably going to demote him. Maybe. Debated. Maybe. Anyways, we got to actually talk about his weapon because it is really interesting. So smite attack defense link is really good. Maybe you could run him with tactic skills and he ends up being pretty good as a support unit. But really why he works as a support unit is because of his weapon. And I'm glad they did this and not try to make him compete with Nyla. Makes him stand out. Personal performance, forget that. But basically what his weapon does is if you smite the unit in, and then as soon as that unit like ends turn, they're going to debuff units within 2 spaces, which is huge. Huge. And you know why that's huge? Because of Vantage strategies. Vantage strategies makes that amazing. So Vantage strategies want you to like smite in a unit and then just end turn. This could work for tanks too. It doesn't necessarily have to be Vantage strats, but Vantage strats make this work really awesomely. So not only do you buff with the attack defense link, you end up maybe smiting your unit in and then just ending turn right into the middle of the team and debuffing the whole enemy team. So this is like really good support potential out of Mordecai. He doesn't even need to be on a beast team for this, which is awesome because who cares if he transforms? You know, his transform effect is some extra attack and some special damage. Like, who cares? He doesn't even come with a special. So forget that. Smite your unit in, end turn right in the middle of the enemy team, debuff their whole team, and boom. It's like smoke daggering the whole enemy team. However, this, I gotta admit, this may not be useful if you already use Aversa. If you already use Aversa, then you're already panicking and -3ing the whole enemy team. So he is somewhat competing with Aversa in that aspect. But it does have some value because it is still 1 stat above that. You may not have space for Aversa on your team as an additional point. And of course, you don't have 2 Aversas. Like when you use maybe on Astra season, Mordecai could be your Astra support unit, and then maybe Aversa is your like light support unit, right? So I'm okay with this. Mordecai's cool, unique. Thank you. Good kit. Hopefully he gets demoted because actually he's just really interesting. This is a cool kit. Well done.
I am Caineghis, King of Gallia and the Beast Tribe.
Caineghis? I've always called him Caineghis, but we'll just call him Mufasa. I'm calling him Mufasa for this video. Okay, guys? Lion King, Mufasa. Okay? Good. That's what I'm calling him from now on. Okay, so any of you who have watched my impressions video, let me start off by saying that you know how I feel about armors. And I'm going to pronounce and renounce the same things I say about armors every single time, which is armors have weaknesses. Armors have weaknesses. Armor slaying weapons. And possibly in the future, and this is a very important one to consider, beast slaying weapons in the future, okay? So they, at this current time, are slightly better than dragon armors like Athun and Duma because they don't have that beast slaying weapon yet. But if beast slaying weapons became common, like through a GHB or Tempest Trials unit, then these guys will lose a lot of value. However, I'll preface this by saying that he is colorless, so he has really solid matchups all around. And we're not looking at stats yet, and we're not looking at skills, okay? We're not looking at that stuff yet. But he's a beast armor, and he's the first of that. And I would look at him as objectively as possible and consider his future potential, which is if beast slaying becomes a thing, he will become much, much worse. However, armors always have that distinct one movement option, and of course, the armor slaying weakness, which, as we'll see in a moment, doesn't matter. So armor's finally done right, okay? Units can attack regardless of foe's range as long as he is transformed, which is not a difficult thing to set up. So all you need to do is give him Fallen Shield in the A, and boom, Mufasa is a colorless Omega tank with no weakness right now. And that is amazing. That actually makes him really, really good, because the only weakness he really has is one movement as an armor. This makes Caineghis, Mufasa, extremely good because he doesn't have all the problems that I always pronounce when it comes to these impressions videos and stat comparisons. He will be miles ahead of things like Athun, Duma, and such because he doesn't have those weaknesses other than one movement. Now, what I'm actually going to also say with like a lot of confidence here is his one movement may not matter that much, and neither will merges so much. Two big, bold statements that I usually say is a problem with the other armors. One movement being a problem, and of course, the whole merges and long-term accessibilities units. So I'm gonna explain this fully. What I mean to say here is the one move matters less, especially in AR offense, because you can run them with beasts. And we were talking about word beasts earlier. And honestly, what does that mean? You can run 3 movement Tibarn, 3 movement Naysala, 3 movement Pane, and these are like pretty available units. You can run Raisin, Lian, and everyone else around him is 3 movement. And the biggest problem with one movement is the ability to just get out of stuff. All those units that I mentioned too are flyers, guidance. So dragons, for instance, can kind of run this, but they don't have 3 movement dragons. So you can pull off way better combinations this way. You don't need armor march, for instance, or you don't need armor boots, as long as the supporting units can run stuff like ward beast and then just guidance hop him around after he's done tanking, or just literally dance him. I mean, the only dragon dancer is Ninian. So if you're creating like a dragon team, for instance, you would need to use Ninian, who can't really guidance, for instance. Like Raisin can guidance hop and then dance Mufasa. Like this sort of mobility option kind of really beats out that one movement thing that's running for him here. So again, really cool in that aspect. Additionally, the whole one movement thing always became a problem with Ether, but when it comes to like Ether pots, 3 movements with Naysala and Raisin and all these units, they can really just do some crazy plays to just get Ether. So honestly, Lion King here, when it comes down to it, that's huge. I want to touch the second point, which was stats and merges and such. Consider that he'll probably be at 175 to 180 BST, somewhere within that range. And usually what I always say is that long-term merges kind of make other units similar outscale these units. However, and I haven't touched on to the point of his weapon yet, so anytime foes initiate combat, which is pretty much what Omega tanks do, he gets 4 to all stats. So he's pretty much at 175 to 180 BST, and then he's plus 10 just from his weapon. Yeah, okay. So what that means is that anyone that's an infantry, like Valoria, for instance, let's use Valoria as an example because I think that's the closest comparison. Colorless infantry. Valoria, 168 BST, I guess 170 with a merge, but whatever. 168 BST. No, it's 163? Sorry, it's 163. 173. So yeah, you pretty much go to 183 with 10 merges on Valoria. I guess flowers can make the difference here, but Mr. Lion King here just already has that BST just on one merge, like not even a merge. Just he's already he's already good to go. That's what I'm saying. So that's kind of nuts. It is definitely kind of nuts. That Valoria is already like a plus 10 Valoria is already comparable to Lion King here. Valoria has some advantages, I gotta admit. She's got Null Sea Disrupt. She's got like an Instant Soul, for instance, if you wanted to run that. And of course, you can run even like Infantry Pulses and Gale Force setups and stuff that can also work a lot better with her. She's not like power creeped. I'm not going to say that. But I'm just saying when it comes to stats, like this guy's already going to have insane amount of stats. And if he already has stuff like 175, 180 BST, there's a very good chance that he has really, like not really high res, but decent res. Or if he doesn't have good res, then he's going to have good speed, which is still a good thing because then you beat sturdy impact situations. So whatever way you look at it, his stat spread is going to make him pretty good. Okay, after all this, I want to just touch on the skills themselves, which is obviously Distant Defense 4, Eventual Fighter, and Distant Guard. Everything on his kit, pretty much ideally best case, is swapped out. Distant Defense 4 looks, like as a new skill, looks good, but honestly is not that good. It'd probably be okay on Lion King here, but then he keeps his armor weakness, so therefore it's not good. So yeah, therefore you take it off. Distant Defense 4 is like the ideal A skill for distant counter weapons, as it's always been. So units that have distant counter are going to want this. Legendary Roy, Legendary Ike, Fjorm, Harden, etc., etc. These units want this skill because then they can retain their tanking, whether from melee or range, which makes it decent on Lion King himself. But the problem is a lot of those units I mentioned, other than Fjorm and Harden, I guess, have low res, and that makes them very susceptible to stuff like AoE specials, which means stuff like Bonus Doubler and Fort Defense res are going to be more consistent and better when handling those specific situations. Therefore, Distant Defense 4 ends up being a very niche type of skill, and likely used on maybe some sort of range tank specific characters that already have high res, or they're used on units that have distant counter on their weapon. That's really where you're going to use it. Otherwise, not that good of a skill when you consider all the other A slot options. Eventual Fighter, I haven't touched on this too much, but generally speaking, you don't want Eventual Fighter is not as good as Special Fighter because it doesn't have as much special acceleration. Also makes you prone to getting doubled, which is not as good. So Eventual Fighter is more like a PvE skill and not so good in AR, where you could risk getting doubled by 50, 60 speed units that proc their specials, and yeah, you're in trouble. So don't recommend it. Special Fighter better, even Bold Fighter maybe, Worry Fighter. Eventual is like just QR. It's pretty much QR at this point. And finally, Distant Guard if you use a tank attack smoke, right? Simple as that. So yeah, overall, really good unit, but even after all of this that I said, keep in mind what I always say about this sort of stuff, which is this unit is in a 4-person banner, which makes them very expensive to pull for. You're looking at least like 180, 200 orbs on average, with more of the sad stories, 1 in 10 people spending maybe 360 to 400 orbs. Not so good. Remember, the banner will likely last anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. So overlapping with other important banners, which could be the legendary at the end of the month, potentially, or maybe some focus banners they might be looking forward to. You don't know. The idea is you don't have to rush to get him, and he's going to show up later. Whether that's in a skills banner, maybe a fighter skills banner, maybe a distant guard banner, you don't know, where he'll be much easier to pull and add merges to, or even pull one off. And finally, legendary banners, mythic banners that show up later, which will definitely have things like Air, Duma, whatever colorless legendary is coming up, Grima, maybe future legendaries or mythics. You don't know. So you can get yourself way more value pulling him later than you would right now. So as I always say, patience will more pay off. But if you're going to obviously free summon tickets, or if you're going to use your tickets, it should probably be for this guy. Because as a one-off, you can be pretty good. Okay, moving on.
This old blood still boils.
All right, finally. So summing it up, we have one of each color here. Honestly, maybe not the best, but these units are ranging from samey to potentially very good. I do fear the day when a beast slaying weapon comes out because the value of these units will decrease a lot. And of course, legendaries and mythics will definitely make these units shine out way better when it comes to orb value spending, which I just mentioned. But as a one-off, or even a +1, like Mr. Mufasa, Lion King Hero, King Genghis Khan, whatever you want to call him, is going to be really good. And definitely, because of Fallen Shield, will make him stand out because he has DC in his weapon. If he has it, I probably will use him, even in Astra, maybe as a future tank, because I do think with the right support, Ward Beasts and whatnot, he can be really good. But that still doesn't exclude him from having to be pulled for when you have so many other good options as it is. Like, I don't need him. You probably don't need him. He's not, you probably don't even have the right setup to use him unless you're going to pull for Ranulf, 3 copies for Ward Beasts, and set up a full team dedicated to him. It is difficult to set him up, but if you reach that potential, he can be really good. So, as I said, patience pays off, and we'll see what the months come to bring. Anyways, with all that said, let me know what you think in the comments below on your thoughts on these units. And as always, give the video a thumbs up if you haven't already, sub to the channel, and I will see you guys tomorrow or the day after. I'm not sure when we get the data mine for a unit comparison, which I'll definitely look at these units in even further detail and what sort of changes they may bring to the game. Just as a way to kind of like kill some final hype here, just in case you really do think that I did push these units maybe more than I usually do. Does anyone still remember Flora? Does anyone still remember Selkie? Okay, that's all from me. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. All right, peace.